Welcome in here to this week's episode of Three True Values Big Board. We're joined by Jamie Shaw, and we are here to talk about kind of wrap up all the preseason talk. Obviously, we're one day into the season now, but just want to kind of put a bow on setting us up to watch college basketball for the rest of the season. And so we're going to talk about some of the top returning players in college basketball this year and where they stand in the NBA draft picture. So, of course, we have plenty of players who are going to be excellent college basketball players, but how's it going to translate to the next level? That's what we're going to be watching throughout the year with this group of guys that we're going to talk about today from the Big Ten, the Big 12, and also we will touch on the Big East here. If you want to hear more about the SEC and ACC players in this category, go back, watch our previous episode. And of course, as we've said before, we're kind of alternating through here. We'll talk recruiting one week, we'll talk draft the next week. We're going to do that throughout the course of the season right here on Tuesdays. So, with that introduction, Jamie, let's get into it. Let's talk about some of these Big Ten returning players. Of course, when we say returning to college basketball, some of these guys are transfers. It's kind of hard to separate out that from the rest of the country. So, who do you really like in the Big Ten this year that you think can make a jump and rise up some NBA draft boards?
Well, kind of, I want to start on a team.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very fascinated looking at Michigan,
Okay.
namely their front court. You have Yaxel Lindenberg that's coming back. I think he's going to have a fantastic season this year. My preseason started number one overall with what we had in the preseason for me, players in college basketball. There's so much that he can do. UAB last year, all five counting stats, he led them in the production. And Dusty May's system looks like it's going to be kind of catered around or playing through him when he's on the floor. But also he shares that front court with Morez Johnson and Ade Mara, both guys that I feel like a new scenery, a change of scenery with coming to Michigan could be very intriguing looking ahead toward their NBA prospects. Morez Johnson is a big physical presence on the block. No matter the skill set, the switchability, what you have fluidity athletically that they look at, physicality is never going to go out of style in the NBA. While he might not have the upside of some others, there is a baseline that he brings of being able to rebound the basketball. It's going to be very intriguing to see how that looks, kind of what he's able to do defensively, how he's able to stretch out his offensive game a little bit. But there's some definite something there to monitor and watch as he continues forward with this Michigan team. And then Ade Mara, never quite got it going out at UCLA. Coming into UCLA, he was a top 20 guy. I guess we were on three then when we did the rankings. Top 20 type guy, big 7'2" type presence who's able to create advantages on ball.
Mm-hmm.
Sees the floor well. He's got some perimeter stuff to him. He's got the length there. He's able to protect the rim a little bit and all that. There's a very intriguing play that he has at Ade Mara with that size. I'm very eager to see the step that he takes with this Michigan team. So Yaxel Lindenberg is the one that everybody's going to be looking at. He was a borderline first round pick this past year. Possibly some people have him around the 20 range.
Yeah.
Decided to come back to college basketball, get another season under his belt, and see if he can grow from there. Early returns have been very positive with Yaxel. He's going to have NBA eyes on him all season. However, with those eyes being there, I'm very eager to see the moves that both Morez Johnson and Ade Mara are both able to make in this college basketball season.
Yeah, and I think two completely different front court options to play with Yaxel in there. And I think that's going to benefit both of them. Scouts are going to be able to see what they bring to the table next to a guy who you know is a staple, a guy that these teams are interested in, we know. And so when they see the spacing that Ade Mara can help create, that's going to be interesting. There's some teams that are going to say, that's how we want to play. Let's look at that a little bit harder. When you look at Morez Johnson, you talk about the physicality, just the physical dominance that they're going to have on the floor with Yaxel and his ability to cover ground, his ability to impact the game. Like you said, all the counting stats. When you combine that with a guy who can just bruise and do some of that physical work, allow him to roam, to get some more space to do his job, that's going to be valuable to a lot of teams too. It's all in the eye of the beholder in these front courts, and you got two different options here. Somebody's going to walk away saying, I really like what we saw next to Yaxel Lindenberg when they watch Michigan.
Yep. No, I agree. I'm fascinated to see how the season goes for them, what the minutes look like, and what kind of stuff they're able to actually unlock at this Michigan program.
Yeah, I'm going to head um, in a different direction here. We're going to go to the backcourt. I'm going to talk about Bennett Sturts at Iowa. He's a guy who has picked up some real fans in the draft community. He's kind of in that boat of Yaxel where there were whispers, talks. Is he a first round pick? Is he really that good of a player at just what he does? Is he so good at initiating the offense, at getting the team into sets that he can just, you know, be that steady presence at the backup point guard spot that teams will take a swing at in the late first round? I think that he has that. I'm interested to see. We talk about a step up in competition. Of course, he's gone from Division II up to Drake and now to Iowa. So he has made a big leap every year over these past couple of years. And last year it was no problem. Not only was it no problem playing at the mid-major level, he also went into those big games when he would face the high major competition. He looked at his best, I thought, in those settings. So I'm not concerned that he's going to have a dip in production at Iowa, but what I'm interested to see is, does it look the same? Is he able to just have that full control over the court that he seems to have at that point guard spot up against a higher level of competition athletically more than anything?
For sure. I think Bennett Sturts is an absolute fascinating one. And also, too, just like with Yaxel at Michigan, I'm eager to see Alvaro Fulgaris as well as Brendan Housen, what they're able to do. But focusing here on this Iowa team with Bennett Sturts, 6'4" listed. He's able to toggle comfortably on and off the basketball. He shot 38% from three this past year from three. And then he's able to manipulate the basketball to create angles and find offensive advantages consistently. So he's got the floor vision, the awareness on ball to create advantages, but he's also able to pull gravity off ball and shoot it. At 6'4", he's got a lot of swagger to him. He plays with a little bit of a flair as well, always on the court. And I think he's an underrated defensive player as well. Especially off the ball, able to kind of cut angles and find passing lanes and be kind of aggressive playing off ball defense. There's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of things that you like with his ability to shoot the basketball, which obviously there's something there, but he's also on the basketball, able to create advantages, able to process the game pretty quickly when it comes especially to pick and roll, getting the teeth of the defense, spray the ball around a little bit as well. There's an intrigue there. As you mentioned, 20 points per game in the 5 high major games he had this past year. I think they were 4-1 in those games, including 2 in the NCAA tournament. The lights were the brightest, and he stepped up. He was the MVC player of the year last year as well. I'm fascinated to see what this Ben McCollum-led Iowa team looks like. I'm fascinated to see what Bennett Sturts looks like playing high major basketball consistently. And then also kind of as a secondary, we don't have to get into them, but Fulgaris and Housen, I think also could be very intriguing players to kind of keep an eye on to see how they do this season as well.
Yeah, I think 2 guys that are going to benefit from a player like Bennett Sturts being out there, just like we talked about those 2 guys at Michigan benefiting from playing next to Yaxel. Where do you want to go next in this Big Ten conference with the returners?
Man, I don't know if there's it's difficult. I mean, obviously you have the Braden Smiths of the world there that we could talk about. Then we also have the Illinois guys. We could talk about. There's some Cohen Carr action. Nolan Winter. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff there. Do we want to talk about Braden Smith? Let's jump into. Let's talk about
Braden Smith. Let's get into that conversation. Yeah,
of his NBA upside.
Yeah,
watching the 2 of them. Obviously, this is going to be very intriguing because Braden Smith comes into this season with all the headlines, all the press clippings. Everybody's talking about him. I think Bennett Sturts personally. I have him ranked higher when it comes to the preseason stuff. When it comes to all that as a point guard. I like the translatability that he has at 6'4", ability to shoot the ball, ability to play both on and off the ball. Braden Smith is a fascinating player because he is an absolute maestro in the pick and roll. His ability to create, manipulate angles with great pace, find the soft spot of the defense, and absolutely exploit the heck out of it every single possession methodically, getting a defender on his hip, getting his teammates open, or finding the open look for himself. He's 6 foot tall. He shot the ball at a 38% clip this past year. I'm not necessarily sure if I would consider him a driller, but he can make a shot. Defensively at the point of attack, I have questions there as well. Finishing at the rim, I have questions there as well. But I think on a lifetime achievement scale, I think he's won close to 90 games, maybe 87 games throughout his career. He's played in the NCAA finals, and he's consistently gotten better, but
Mhm.
also gotten everybody around him better, orchestrated things around him. Um, the pick and roll stuff is just fascinating to watch. How good he is at being able to draw a defender, get him into the screen, and pass his player open at multiple levels. As an NBA standpoint, probably going to get a second round pick based on the totality
Right.
of what he's done. Um, and then it's going to be up to him to scratch and claw and see if he can find his way in there. The height worries me. The athleticism, the defensive at the point of attack worries me a little bit as well. But there, you can't deny what he's done productivity wise.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there on the second round pick, and he's going to have to fight and claw and kind of earn his way into the league. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that there's every opportunity that he would kind of fight and claw. We see some of these guys when they don't check the boxes on the physical measurements, when they don't, just look the part. Sometimes they have to work their way into the league, find their role. And this is just such a high IQ basketball player, a guy who, when you talk to people around that program, they'll tell you he is the most fierce competitor. Like when you talk about the standard that has been set at Purdue over these last few years, he is one of the key pieces in keeping that at such a high level year over year, making sure that everyone is rising up to where he wants to be from a competition standpoint. So I love his game. I love watching him. But like you said, it's just there's only so many spots for small guys in the NBA, and he's going to have to find where his is before he's given the keys to anything at the next level.
Yeah, and looking at those guys too, you have like the Jose Alvarados of the world, the TJ
Right.
McConnells of the world, guys that are able to just really pester you on the defensive end of the floor, pick up for 94 feet, and have no problems doing that for the entirety of the game. It's going to be a fascinating journey.
For sure. I want to take us. You mentioned Illinois there. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about that a little bit. That's another one where we could just talk about the whole team if we wanted to.
Yeah,
I'm
for
going to
sure.
lead with Stojakovic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really intrigued by the scoring punch that we saw at Cal. We know that he can get buckets, but if you go back and look for a guy who was putting up the amount of points that he was at the position he was, he didn't get a whole lot of NBA draft buzz last year. It's not like he was one of these guys who we were talking about fringe first round and then came back. So I'm interested to see how he takes his game, to the next level. Is it in the efficiency on the offensive end? Can he become that bucket getter who is at a high enough clip that these teams say, look, we just have to put him out on the floor and get the ball in his hands? Or does he improve in the other aspects? Does he add some rebounding to his game, a little bit more in the ability to swing the ball around the perimeter? Does he add some defensive elements there, just the ability to sit down and be a reliable, maybe not the first or second guy, but that third guy on defense, that team defense kind of guy that we talk about? Can he sit down in a stance and guard somebody without having to be hidden on that end of the floor? Those are the things that I'm going to be looking for from him to see if he can rise up the board from guy that's really fun, scores a lot of points, to real NBA draft prospect.
For me, with Andre, what it's always been, even dating back to the high school, is he's got to become a better shooter. He's always had unbelievable feel as a scorer. He's able to get into the mid range, the pull up jump shot. High IQ player. He understands his balance points, footwork, and all that stuff. He's just never consistently made the three ball.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unique, given who his dad is, given, dad possibly being one of the better shooters in NBA history. Um, Andre is a scorer more than he is a shooter.
Right.
I'd be interested to see him streamlining his offensive game to find more efficiency, but also with that, at the 6'6", 6'7" range, solid athlete, good balance points, getting his shooting percentage up to a 38 type percent from three. I think his ability to pull gravity will be what his long-term outcome is. Defensively, fine. Rebounding, fine. He moves the ball pretty well as well. He can see the floor and all that stuff, but he's got to become an efficient three-point shooter. If he does that, if he's able to consistently pull the gravity and show that he can consistently, efficiently score the basketball, I think that'll go a long way in dictating his draft prospects.
Yeah, and we'll see. We'll see if he can get more off the ball reps. That is one of the things that I look at that 3-point percentage kind of column, And it's always interesting because you've got some guys who only shoot off the dribble. And so, yeah, their percentage is a little bit lower, but we know that they're really good shooters. And then you got guys who only stand in the corner and shoot. And when they have a high percentage, we say, yeah, but he only shoots, catch and shoot from the corner. So there's some element there of, I wonder how high he can get that percentage by taking less of them off the dribble, less step backs, stuff like that, more catch and shoot within the flow of this Illinois offense. Where I want to talk about the Ivisic twins now. I want to talk about how different they are as players, and which one do you think ranks higher in the draft conversation as we talk about things?
Well, it's a floor versus ceiling situation. I think Tomislav, you kind of know what you're going to get with him. I think there's a high floor there as to the type of player that he is. There's some skill there. The feet are a little bit heavy, which is going to be interesting to see how that ultimately plays out. But I think there's a high floor there. With Zvonimir, Big Z, I think the ceiling's a little bit higher because there's a little bit more offensive fluidity to his game. There's a little bit more of an ability to kind of do some things off the bounce, a little bit more pop possibly in his game. But I think both of them are incredibly intriguing. Tomislav obviously showed this past year the steady nature of what he could bring to the college game, and I can only see there being a step up. This past year, Kasparis was a little bit wild with the ball. Will Riley was a little bit inconsistent. However, obviously both first round draft picks, both highly talented players.
Yeah.
There's older. This team got a little bit older this past year.
Yeah.
In the offseason, there's going to be a little bit more offensive continuity. There's going to be a little bit more spacing on the offensive end of the floor, a little bit more consistency, I believe, on the offensive floor. And I think with that, Tomislav could really take a step forward in being a pretty big presence, especially at the college level. And I think with that coming in with a 7'1", 7'2" type frame, NBA teams are going to have to take notice as to what he is. Now, the ceiling of him being a possible lottery pick, I'm not quite sure that's there, but I think the steadiness of him being a good NBA player for multiple years to come, provided he takes that step this year, I think that's definitely within play with Big Z. He's going to have to show steadiness and consistency. Up until this point, the flashes have been unreal, but the consistency has just not been there. Maybe a change of scenery will help. Again, the same things that could help Tomislav within this offensive continuity, within the consistency to what this offense is going to have, could certainly help Big Z what he has, and also kind of having a little bit more of a consistent role within the offense could help him as well. But I think right now Big Z is more of a flashes guy. I think Tomislav is more of a meat and potatoes guy with kind of what he brings.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. I do think with Zvonimir, the most interesting storyline that I'm following is this whole he says he couldn't see the last couple of years, and now he's gotten an eye test and he's figured it out. He says he can see the rim. If he was shooting that well as a big man, without being able to see, I can't imagine what we're about to witness this year. Maybe that's the consistency element that we're looking for.
David Merkovic is another player to kind of watch on that team. I'm kind of interested to see what he's able to bring.
Yep, really interested in his game as well. Let's go ahead and let's just bounce around. Let's get through the Big Ten. Let's throw out a couple more names that we're interested in. I'll start with Nate Biddle at Oregon. It was a slow start for him, had injuries early in his career, but feels like a familiar story at Oregon. Centers who deal with a lot of health stuff early, and then they pop up and you look around and you say, man, that guy's really good at basketball. He is a real staple in that team. His teammate Jackson Shelstad at the point guard position injured right now, but I think he's going to be another guy who, if he can knock down threes, if he can show a little bit of on and off the ball work, that he could have some value as well late in the draft.
I very much agree with Biddle. I think Biddle's going to be a very intriguing one, especially with the NBA kind of going back toward the bigs a little bit. I think Biddle's got a chance to open some eyes. Cohen Carr, Michigan State's one that I'm going to have my eyes firmly planted on. Freak athlete. Defensively, you love what he brings, the instincts that he brings. He can he's a stocks guy, defending off the ball, defending on the ball, all that stuff. What developments does he make on the offensive end of the floor? He's going to have to take a step for this Michigan State team to reach the top 25 potential that they want to have this year. He's going to have to take a step forward offensively, be a guy that they can rely on with some scoring. It's going to be very interesting to see what steps he takes.
Yeah, Tucker DeVries at Indiana. Look, I feel like his stock has almost gone down just because of the couple of injuries that he's had and the kind of plateau. I think in terms of we wanted to see him add some things to his game. It didn't necessarily get there, but I still think that he's going to probably enter the NBA and find a spot in a wing rotation somewhere in forward spot and just be a solid guy that you can rely on there. Um, I don't know how big his ceiling is, but I do think there's a floor there to his game that will be valuable in any system.
The Wisconsin trio for me, that's kind of right there on the cusp. John Blackwell, Nolan Winter, Austin Rapp. Be very interested to see kind of how they look this year. Nolan Winter, big guy who can stretch the floor a little bit. Kind of look for him as a double type guy. Blackwell taking just a step forward into the scoring role, seeing how he can streamline and be efficient with his scoring. Also, as a smaller guy, can he kind of toggle in between some play setting as well as efficient scoring? And then Rapp, with his positional size and ability just to shoot the basketball, I'm eager to see what he looks like in that Wisconsin system with other players around him as kind of a third option. Does that make his shooting more efficient?
Yeah, and I'll wrap us up here. I'm going to keep an eye on Donovan Dent for sure. 20-point per game guy last year, making the jump to the high major level at UCLA. And we'll see how quickly he can get things rolling there.
One last one that I'm fascinated to see, out of sight, out of mind guy, Rink Mast at Nebraska.
Yes.
I don't even really know what to say about him. However, I think he's going to put up big numbers, and I'm very fascinated to see kind of what that looks like.
He's a guy who, if he doesn't get an NBA gig, he's going to get a multi-million-dollar deal overseas. There's no question about that in my mind.
Yeah, he I think he's going to be a big producer in college basketball this year. With his size, I think that could open some eyes.
Yep. Let's go through the Big East a little bit here, and I'm going to start us off with Alex Karaban. I feel like we have to start on Alex Karaban. He's all-time borderline first-round guy in the Big East. He's since he was a freshman, it feels like we've talked about him. If he comes out this year, he's probably a borderline first-round pick, and he keeps going back to UConn, keeps having success there. He's a lot like I was saying with DeVries just a minute ago. Of there's a limit on the ceiling that you're going to get. But there is a floor there that feels like it is a spot in the wing rotation, a spot on the roster as a forward, pretty much anywhere across the league that ends up getting their hands on him.
Yeah, he's able to process with the ball in hand. Obviously, there's going to be athletic questions. There's going to be defensive questions. How does he consistently create offense and stuff? But his passing and processing ability, I think, is quite unique. I'm going to slide over a little bit to his teammate, Solo Ball. He's just a scorer. I mean, he showed last year at 42% shooting from three. He can make shots and knock it down. He's got some explosion to his game. I want to see him be a little bit more consistent from two. I want to see him kind of get into a little bit more multiple levels of the scoring aspect. But 14 a game last year, UConn's leading scorer. He's back this year. The team is better, I guess we can say. They upgraded across the board almost kind of with their lineup on paper. Eager to see how that streamlines his game, makes it a little bit more efficient, what he's able to do, how he's able to grow in that manner. But I think there could be a big season ahead for Solo Ball.
Yeah, I'm looking at one more guy on that roster. I'm looking at Terrace Reed. We know that he's got the athleticism. He's shown the ability to rebound. Can he put it all together? Can he become a rim runner? Can he become a solid screen setter? Can he add? Can he just keep improving on the defensive end? Work on just rounding out his game to become that kind of just plug and play center that you put out there with a point guard and you let him pick and roll all through the game. So like, I'm not, again, I think that his ceiling is an interesting conversation because of the difference in value that centers can have. But I'm really just interested to see, can he take his game to another level in general this year?
Not going to spend too much time on this one, but a fourth guy on that UConn team, Silas Demery. I'm eager to see if he's able to make kind of first year Tristan Newton type jump. Kind of getting into his game like that, big 6'5" guard. The guy I'm going to talk about is Big O over at Providence, Oswin Erhuman, 6'10", and just an unbelievable athlete. The explosion upon explosion and twitch. He's able to move. He's got unbelievable instinct. So defensively is really where his game is going to shine. You're going to see a lot of stuff able to slide his feet, drop down, switch, protect the rim, do all that. He's a good area rebounder, strong hands, and he plays out of the dunker spot, providing vertical floor spacing. Very intrigued to see what the steps his game takes offensively. Is he able to add a little bit more to his game outside of rim running and playing out of the dunker spot? But there are some very, very unique athletic traits that Osman has. I think playing with a guy like a Jason Edwards and kind of the pieces that they added, Kim English added to that Providence team, could open up a little bit more for him this year, year 1 to year 2, the sophomore. But there are he checks some boxes at the highest level and is uniquely among the top of college basketball when it comes to that type of athletic burst, explosion, pop, fluidity, and all that. So I'm very interested to see the steps he takes year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, that's an interesting name that was I think I don't think he gets enough love for being like you said, a big time athlete, a guy who is really solid in the middle. I think that it sometimes gets overshadowed by the front court at St. John's. Understandably, the big names that they have there. So let's head there because I'm interested. Of the three that we have there, Bryce Hopkins, we have Dillon Mitchell, and we have Zuby Ejiofor. I think that Dillon Mitchell is still probably the best NBA prospect, just based on the measurements, the ability to play that 4, but the production and the shooting that you would like to see to be able to stretch the floor just hasn't been there in his career. And so I almost lean Zuby as the guy who I think maybe if he's just so good at what he does, could find that kind of niche role on a team at the end of the bench, filling some minutes there.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. I mean, you got 3 different players, kind of like we talked about earlier, on the Michigan front, completely different, from the Michigan thing. But there's 3 different guys there. Bryce Hopkins earlier in his career at Providence was on the pathway of just high level production. Injuries happened, and we're still kind of waiting to see what that looks like coming back 100% full from injuries. You're looking at Dillon Mitchell. Now, again, we go back to the old, this is not a 1-to-1 comparison.
Yeah.
But seeing Colin Murray-Boyles have success right now, as Jacob Hurdle got hurt, now he's getting into the lineup at Toronto, seeing what Colin Murray-Boyles is able to do kind of in the Toronto lineup, that could give some hope for Dillon Mitchell kind of along the way. It also gives him a North Star to kind of watch with his game. Now, Colin Murray-Boyles was a very good passer and all that stuff. You could do some interesting things with him offensively. But kind of that lengthy defensive player, kind of a small ball 5 type of guy, that you can plug and play into different defensive stuff. It'll be interesting to see if Dillon Mitchell is able to take an offensive step forward when it comes to processing, passing, and being able to run some stuff through as well. And Zuby, again, you just kind of know what you're going to get with him. I mean, he's a bruising guy down low. He's able to create space, create angles, create advantages on the block. Strong hands. He rebounds it well, has instincts and all that stuff. There's a high floor with Zuby. Ceiling might not be as high, but you kind of know what you're going to get with Zuby, and if you like that, he's going to be a good option.
Yeah, that backcourt is interesting.
They also have the backcourt guys too, Joseph Santa and Ian Jackson.
Yeah, Ian Jackson, such an interesting player last year because you look at the raw stats, and nothing was particularly out of place. He didn't shoot poorly from 3. His points per game was in line, but when you watch the game, you knew that there was a lot left to be desired from not just him, but that whole UNC team, especially the young players. I'm interested to see because I viewed him last year as an off the ball guy, as a shooting guard, and obviously Rick Pitino wants him to play the point guard position. So that almost just kind of overhauls the scouting process with him. You've got to kind of look at him in a new way, or you have to say, all right, Rick Pitino is making him do these things, but what do we view that we can translate back to the 2? Those are your 2 options there. So I'm just interested to see, how does this kind of play out? Does it rise his stock back to the level that it was before last year? Or does it take even more of a hit because we aren't seeing him in the role that people thought he was going to be in when they started scouting him?
The thing with Ian Jackson is there's this thing going around basketball Twitter a few years ago called you have basketball players and hoopers. Ian Jackson is a hooper. He's a guy you just roll the ball out, go make something happen, and he's able to create some opportunities. with improvising and his ability to play. My thing with him is pace, kind of slowing things down a little bit, being able to survey the floor a little bit better. But also, kind of, it's not feel. He's got solid feel. The processing aspect of the game, seeing the entirety of the floor, and processing the play ahead, which puts his team into the best advantage. I think our next steps for him are, I'm curious to see kind of how that looks if he's playing a more on the ball role this year for St. John's, how that looks for him.
Yep.
But as for somebody at 6'5" who's able to just to go make a play, he's absolutely able just to get the ball in his hands and go make something happen. And that's a unique trait for somebody to have. And I think that's what's kind of really put him on the map, even earlier in his career. Now it's about kind of honing that in and streamlining that into kind of more efficient outlooks for the team advantage.
Yeah, and that's one of the, when you I think you nailed it there with the hooper versus basketball player conversation. And it's this idea, right or wrong, because sometimes it's been proven that you can be a hooper and fit within a team construct. It just looks different. But that's going to be the problem he has to overcome, is do people believe that his style of play will fit into what they want to do once he is no longer the number one option?
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Let's talk about his teammate too a little bit here, Josan Sanan. I was really fascinated by his game last year at Arizona State. Suffered the injury, and so we didn't get to see as much of it as I would have liked. I was kind of waiting for him to take that next step, that little leap where you go from productive to efficient and productive. Didn't shoot terribly from the three-point line, even with that said, 37%. If he can raise that a little bit, given what his game is, the ability to score, I think there's going to be some intrigue in what he's able to do.
Josan's game, even back to, when we ranked him before he reclassed up and all that stuff in the high school level, you just really like his approach to scoring the basketball. Last year, he was asked to be a number one option in kind of a system that was in a little bit of disarray.
Yep.
It seems that this year there is more around him, and his identity is going to be a little bit more defined as to what it is. He's a good scorer. I mean, he's a 2-level scorer, at least from 3 in the mid range. He's able to get into the 2 dribble pull up. He's able, 1-2 dribble pull up. He's able to catch and shoot. He can, shoot off movement. He can get that going as well. It'll be all about finding his spots on the floor, finding it within the flow of his offense, and getting the balance points together within that flow. And I think there's some real upside. I think there's some real upside there when it comes to Sand, and 6'4", long arms, and just an ability to score the ball. As you mentioned, if he's able to get the 3-point to 40%, shooting a little bit more off movement, a little bit more streamlined approach as to which shots he takes, I think he could open some eyes by the end of the year.
For sure. You got anyone else in this conference that you want to just bounce through real quick before we go to break here?
Yeah, I do. Creighton. Creighton's got 3 guys that I'm going to be watching this year to see if they take a step forward. I'm very, very fascinated with Josh Dix. I think he's got a chance to end up actually being, first team all-league type guy. Yeah. There's some processing stuff, ball in hand, that he has there off on the ball, but also a career 40% shooter from 3. One of the real shooting threats in college basketball going into this open system. I think he's going to have the ball in his hand a little bit more, able to make decisions and all that to expand his game. I could see him taking a real step NBA wise throughout this season, but also Blake Harper and Jackson McAndrew. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure who guys are this year guys, but I think that both of them, Blake being 6'7", ball in hand processor, the freshman year that he had at Howard this past year, eager to see how that translates to Creighton this year, but I can also see it being next year, him being just taking a massive step. I think he'll be on the radar at some point in time in his career over these next couple seasons. Jackson McAndrew, 6'10" guy who can really shoot the ball, put the ball on the floor a little bit. He has some athletic fluidity and all that. Had a good freshman year, started a lot of the games for Creighton as a freshman. I think he's going to take a step forward this year. I think he's going to help. I think the percentage is going to go up a little bit. I think his ability to what he's able to show is going to go up a little bit too. So I think Jackson McAndrew, I can also see taking a step forward into those conversations.
Yeah, I'll throw out one more just complete flyer. Like I'm talking, he's not on my board, but I can't stop watching Elijah Fisher every year, just trying to figure out, Is it like, is this maybe he turns into what we thought he was going to be this year? Is surely it's going to happen. But I'm always keeping up with, is he having a little bit of a breakout here? Can we start to build the hype up again? We'll see if he can get that figured out this season. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about the Big 12. So don't miss that right here on Three True Values Big Board. Welcome back in here on Three True Values Big Board. As we keep things rolling, we are talking about the Big 12 returners. Jamie, I think you'll agree that conversation kind of has to start with JT Toppin at the top here. Preseason All-American selection, a guy who put up 18-9 last season, and has every opportunity to do it again, to repeat his performance from last season on a team that has a lot of hope to go deep in the postseason. So I like his game. I think that there is plenty of elements, starting with some of the defense. I think that the rebounding translates. But what's interesting about him is that I don't think that he's a stretch the floor power forward. I don't think he's really going to turn into that, which means that he's limited in what kind of system and what kind of team he fits at in the next level. So, in the right spot, I think he could be a really good player, a guy who can contribute for years, but it's about finding the right location for him more than anything.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. His offensive game is a little bit more set as a 5, but his physical build's a little bit more as a 4-ish type guy. I think what he's going to need to show, can he stretch away from the basket? Awesome within 5 feet of the 5 to 10 feet of the basket, able to really, really create angles. Like his ability to catch the ball, go left hand, right hand, counters, all that type of stuff, and create an angle, create an advantage on the block, I think is truly unique. And he's twitchy, he's a quick leaper, and all that type of stuff. The intrigue that I have with his game, what he's going to have to be able to do is how does he consistently create offensive advantages within the flow of the spacing that the NBA likes. Is he able to? Can you play through him with the passing? Now, talking with Grant McCaslin, he loves the way that he passes the ball, the unselfishness, and all that stuff. Love to see him be a little bit see what it looks like. I don't know if he can be or not. I want to see what it looks like. Him being a little bit more of a hub away from the basket, maybe running some offense through, see what his passing ability truly looks like, and then defensively, can he switch and slide? Not a rim protector. He can play as the biggest guy at the rim, the last line of defense, and block a couple shots, but he's not a true rim protector.
Right.
What does it look like sliding, defending? Is he able to switch across multiple spots on the defensive end? I think there's a lot of questions that it comes with JT Toppin's game when it comes to the next level. I think as a collegiate player, possibly the top 5 guy within the college game right now. When it comes to the next level, I'd be interested to see him expand his game out. To have a little bit more on both ends of the floor, a little bit more responsibility, and kind of just see what it looks like with those expanded roles.
Yeah, he's one of those guys too that I would fit in the category. We've talked about a few players in this group of power forwards who I think would benefit greatly at the next level if they're next to one of these stretch the floor 5s, because they can then get to their spot on offense. And it's this idea that we've seen pop up more and more of having one guy who's the center on offense and the power forward on defense, and then flip it, and then you got the other guy plays, power forward on offense, center on defense, because you've got these bigs now, these centers who are versatile enough to play on the perimeter and leave that space open for that power forward who can then provide you a little bit of different impact on both ends and really switch things up and make it more complicated for the opposing team.
The 2 guys with Texas Tech that I'm fascinated with that I think could take huge steps this year are Lawan Watts, Washington State transfer, and Christian Anderson. Mm-hmm. Christian Anderson had a big summer with Germany this year, FIBA. By all accounts, has taken a step toward being able to be the primary lead guard on this team, as opposed to a piece that he was as a freshman. Ball's going to be in his hand. Decisions are going to be up to him. And it looked like this summer he was capable of taking that step forward. Listed 6'3" long arms. He can shoot the basketball, touch the paint. How does he consistently create offensive advantages? And once he gets that advantage, the reads. We'll be very interested to see kind of how he does there, putting pressure on the rim consistently, getting into the teeth of the defense and doing all that. Very eager to see the step he makes. And Lawan Watts is just one of those jack of all trades types. We saw last year what Darion Williams was able to do in that role with this Texas Tech team. Lawan Watts comes in. He averaged 4 assists this past year. Ball in hand, quick processor. He's got the physical size, long arms, great length, good athlete, very instinctive type player. He's able to create advantages off the dribble, pass, or shoot. Very eager to see kind of what the step coming from Washington State to the Big 12 looks like for him. And what role that he's given within the flow of that offense. Now, he is somebody I said I'd like to see what it looks like with JT Toppin. He is somebody that you can put the ball in his hands and make plays. And it's going to be great for Christian Anderson, too, because not all of the play creation is going to be on him. Anderson's going to be able to take some off-ball type opportunities, stretch the floor, show that he can corner shoot while the ball's in Lawan Watts' hands and making decisions as well. I think those two guys are people that are both guys that can pop onto NBA radars if they continue to take steps forward this season.
Yeah, and I really like the idea just from a team building standpoint that you've got a big man, you've got a wing player, and you've got a guard, all who are in this conversation, in this mix to have big breakout, or well, one of them has already broken out, but two guys added to.
Super sleeper too, Luke Bamgoye.
Yes.
The VCU transfer, big time rim protector, big time
really good rim protector for sure. Let's move on. I'm going to let you throw us to the next place you want to go on this board of players.
We can jump into, I guess, since there's so many guys that are intriguing in the Big 12, we can go team by team. Iowa State has a couple of guys that I'm very interested in. Joshua Jefferson is the main one for me that I'm going to be watching. Really like the versatility that he brings, his ability to find opportunities in an efficient manner on both ends of the floor. I think the defensive versatility is really interesting. His ability to kind of slide up and down a lineup, guard, both perimeter based forwards while sliding down and also guarding guys on the block as well, helping out that way. But also the kind of jack of all trades offensive ability he brings, especially with the pressure he brings, putting on a defense off the ball. I think he's a very good cutter, very good slasher, pulls gravity that way as well, and finds offensive advantages in that way.
Yeah, Jefferson is a guy that I'm really interested in because he feels like the prototype of what we've seen become so valuable in the NBA, of the four who's long, can stretch the spacing out on offense, can cut to the basket off of the ball handler, but on the defensive end, like you said, the versatility. I mean, you can move him around. Wherever the best team's player is, you can just angle him towards that, and whether it's help defense on a big, whether it's asking him to be the point of attack guy, I think that he's got so much range in what he's going to be able to do that he's going to find a lot of value there and get on the court quick.
Two more fascinating guys with them that bring incredible value, but also questions. Tamin Lipsey, possibly one of the best on-ball defenders in the college basketball game. His ability to heat up the basketball full length of the court, make the opposing ball handler uncomfortable, turn him multiple times before he gets to half court, all that. I think Tamin Lipsey really has that. What is he on offense? That's going to be the main thing. Yeah. Can he make decisions on offense? Can he make shots on offense? Can he consistently collapse the defense and make a play for his team on the offensive end? I think it's going to be fascinating to see what type of step he takes there without having Keyshawn Gilbert beside him to kind of take some of those primary options off of him. What does he look like as the primary guy? But his defensive ability at the point of attack is quite possibly second to none. And then you have Milan Momcilovic, who, quite opposite, is a bucket. Yes. He is an absolute bucket getter, but he does so in a very unique manner. A lot of his stuff is out of the mid-range. He can stretch the floor. He can shoot it. He's got touch. But, man, his mid-range stuff, you get the ball in the mid-post to him, and his footwork and his balance points and his ability to find angles using up fakes and footwork and all that step-throughs and everything is fun to watch. Defensively, where does he guard at? He's going to have to show that he's going to be able to, at least be serviceable on that end of the floor.
Yeah.
At 6'8", 6'9", not really a rim protector, not really a switchable guy, but he has a very unique ability to score on offense, and this could be a very, very big year for him. I mean, yes. 20 points per game is very much within the realm of possibilities for what he's able to do. He's going to be efficient with it. So it's going to be fascinating to see kind of where the consensus lies on him as the season progresses forward. But I think those three guys are very intriguing long-term guys. Blake Buchanan, maybe he's a big guy who came in from Idaho. previously at Virginia. He's got some tools to him as well, and can fit into this Otzelberger system with given opportunity. So Jefferson, I'm fascinated by, and I'm very intrigued to see what Milan and Taman do this season.
Yeah, Taman, you talked about the defense. There's no question there. I just need him to be a facilitator. We talked about earlier in this episode about some of the Alvarados, the McConnells of the world. If you're that good on defense, as long as you can bring the ball up the court and get it into the offense, they're going to find a spot for you for sure. And then you talked about Milan. I mean, yeah, he's a bucket, and I think he might even benefit some from the versatility of Jefferson, because you talk about two guys who you think of as fours. If they look cohesive, you're going to give them both a boost for their ability to play next to each other. I'm going to take us to Houston, where I know that we're going to talk about Milos Uzan here, but JoJo Tugler is just one of my favorite players to watch. I mean, the stocks are unreal. The ability to block shots, to create steals, to get into passing lanes. He goes out on the perimeter. I mean, guys that he is way bigger than should not be staying in front of. And it's just, I think it's almost just such a physical, just an imposing presence that he can freeze that perimeter player for a second and get his positioning where it needs to be. He does so much on the defensive end. I think he's one of the best, if not the best, defensive player in the country at the college level. What can he do on offense? That's going to be the question. Can he do a little bit of rim running? Can there be that kind of dunker spot, slash to the bucket, get the offensive rebound and put it back in? That's where I think he's going to have to show I can stay on the floor on both ends and not just be a pure defensive specialist like he has been.
100% spot on. No notes on that one. Tugler's got a chance to be the defensive player of the year in the country.
Yeah,
just like Taman Lipsey. Tugler is the forward version of what Taman Lipsey does. Absolute, just just an undeniable defensive presence. Again, has a chance to be the defensive player of the year. What steps does he take on offense? How does he consistently score? What can you rely on with him on the offensive end of the floor, around the basket? Can he get to his left shoulder? Is he a rim runner? Can he stretch the floor? Anything? What does he bring there? And looking at this Houston team too, obviously all eyes are going to be on Chris Senac, who in game one, the freshman looked very much like a top 10 pick. Kingston Flemings is another one as well, but I think Milos Uzan is in line for a major step forward.
Yes.
We know what this Houston team does with guards, the freedom that he gives his guards as long as they defend. Uzan coming out of high school popped up on NBA draft talks before he'd go into Oklahoma. Took him a couple seasons to kind of get settled. Came into this Houston team last year, and he was a factor with the ball in his hand with other guys around him, the LJ Cryers of the world and Emmanuel Sharp, who took a huge step as well. I'm going to be interested to see what type of NBA buzz he gets also. But the ball was in Uzan's hands to make decisions. Now, this is final year 2 at Houston. Last year, college basketball, Houston doesn't necessarily have the same depth they had last year at the guard position.
Mm-hmm.
So his usage will probably go up even more with what he's capable of doing. If he can shoot the ball like he did last year from three, if he can consistently play efficient basketball, assist turnover wise, getting the ball into the right spots and all that, while showing the ability to touch the paint consistently as well and then play on the defensive end. There's a lot to like there with Milos Uzan to be able to even creep into possibly the first round type conversations.
Yeah, I agree for sure. You're going to get the defensive platform and a Kelvin Sampson guard. And I think that we need to take just a step back into the past when we talk about Uzan. And I don't know if we're going to appreciate enough along the way, watching him what he is now, the leap that he took. I mean, complete, just turned it around and was a different player midway through the season last year.
Yeah.
And that's when that Houston team became a national championship contender. That's when they looked like, okay, this is going to be a Final Four type of roster. When he took over and he hit a completely different level where he was scoring in double digits every night, he looked like he had this just newfound confidence to run the offense. He was the guy out on the court and he knew it. He brings that into this year. And yeah, there could be a big leap in the stats when you look year over year. That's going to be a continuation of what he did at the end of last season.
No, without question. I think it's going to be fascinating too. He had some NBA draft conversations this offseason as well. Stayed in pretty lengthy time into the NBA draft process before coming back to Houston. But I think there's a very clear pathway for him to be able to take a step. Emmanuel Sharp's an intriguing one here as well. Kind of more of a defensive presence, on ball defensive guy who can make shots as well. If he can find the consistency of the shot making, maybe a little bit of self creation in his game as well, there's an intriguing pathway for him to be able to scratch and claw his way onto a roster.
Yeah, let's talk BYU because they've surrounded AJ DeBanza with some really good talent. Richie Saunders is a guy who last year I was looking at and thinking, look, I know that he's probably going to go back to BYU for another year, but somebody's got to talk about him in this NBA draft conversation. 17 a game and over 43% from three last year. And now going to get to play with some real gravity guys. So I think that that's only going to continue to be an above 40 clip. He's got some other things to his game though. He's not just a spot up shooter. You'll see him kind of take one off the bounce and get to the rim. You'll see him do some other things within this offense that I'm really fascinated to see this year.
Without question, when you mentioned BYU, Richie Saunders was the name that I had circled as to returners. Obviously, Dibanza is going to draw all the attention, and rightfully so. What a specimen he is, but Richie on the opposite wing, like you said, the shooting's going to be his meal ticket. The shooting's going to be what opens the eyes and gets him into the league. And if he maintains that 40% clip, but his diversity, ability to kind of do a little bit more than just shoot. He's able to attack a sloppy closeout. He's able to get into space, make some mid-range pull-up type stuff. And he moves the ball pretty well as well. Really like his movement shooting. Really like what he's able to do coming off screens and kind of finding space there. And I think this season, what we're going to see as BYU has a little bit more defined positions, you have a clear 1, clear 2, clear 3, clear 4, all that type of stuff, a little more defined positions. I'm eager to see the actions that Kevin Young's able to put him in to kind of streamline the efficiency within his game. It'll be very interesting to see what Richie Saunders is going to do when he knows he's going to get 12 shots, and those 12 shots per game are going to come from these spots on the floor. Very interested to see kind of how that looks, the efficiency pop that it has there, and kind of the diversity with which he's able to get it in there. But I think Richie Saunders has a very real chance of being able to open some eyes this season.
Yeah, Rob Wright also, I mean, he's been given the keys. He's going to run this thing as the point guard. But I'm so fascinated in Kibakita, just electric. That's the way that I describe his game. Just electric. I mean, he's going and he's grabbing rebounds and he's blocking shots and he's just such a physical force out there. The height is going to be a question because there's no doubt about it. He's a center, but these high energy guys, I don't know. Sometimes there's a pathway that they can create for themselves, not towards big minutes, but towards being on the roster, being a guy who just kind of rises the competitive level in practice, can give you those 5 minutes that get the burst, get the crowd back into it, get everyone on the bench to lock back in. I think he could really create something for himself with all the eyes that are going to be on this team. He might catch a few of those eyes and at least get some people interested in a two-way contract.
Yeah, you mentioned Rob Wright. He's going to have to overcome the height questions with that and build the dynamic nature of his game. There's going to be no doubt the production that he has. He's one of the more productive point guards, as we were able to see last night. Kebakita, as you said, physical presence, athletic specimen, strong, not afraid to throw his body around, high motor. Can he carve out his niche on the offensive end? What can we rely on him to do to be able to pull spacing on the offensive end of the floor and where his areas? I agree with you. I think there's a very real potential pathway there. I think there's a very real stuff that he brings to the table, and his motor, physicality, and presence, just sheer presence around the basket is very, very appealing.
Yep. I know you want to talk about Baylor because they've got some really interesting pieces there.
For sure. I mean, and a lot of the NBA talk early is going to be around Tunde Yusufu, the incredible national freshman class we have coming in here. But I think they have some very intriguing pieces surrounding him, starting with Cam Carr, 6'6", 6'7", wing who transferred in mid-year last year from Tennessee, coming over this year. He's a late bloomer coming out of high school. He is an athletic presence, great length, very fluid mover, and he can really shoot the basketball. The shooting is a real kind of upside that he has there as he continue to round out his offensive game. It's going to be very intriguing the step that he takes, as he has not really seen real minutes yet in the college basketball game. What types of steps? Dad's a former NBA guy as well, dunk contest guy, and all that. It'd be interesting to see the steps that he takes because he's got a lot of physical tools that check a lot of boxes as he continues to kind of put things together. And then Michael Rataj is another one, the transfer coming in, 6'8" forward. I would not be surprised to see him have the ball in his hand a lot, make some decisions. I think he's a very skilled guy. He's got a very high IQ as a player as well, ball in hand, able to make decisions with that. So I'll be very fascinated to see the role that he brings with Baylor. But also kind of the production that he's able to bring within that role. There's a very unique with the size, skill, kind of combination that he brings that I think on this platform in the Big 12 could really, really pop.
Yeah, on that same roster, Obi Agben, man, I've caught a couple of glimpses of his game, and just early on, I am really impressed with just the overall well-rounded wing / guard ability that he has. He looks like he could come in and look, he's not going to be VJ Edgecombe from last season. But if you told me he could fill the production that they got out of him in that spot, I'd believe it. I think that he's got that kind of talent. And so I'm interested to see, how does he do it? We haven't seen a lot of him, obviously, coming from Wyoming. So what does it look like against the high level competition? How does he build his game? How does he create all those advantages and obviously play with a lot of other talent, the guys that we've already listed here that are on that roster with him? As we wrap up here on the show, let's throw out, I know we've got a couple of guys, particularly at the center position, that we want to just touch on in this conference. And Mustapha Thiam is right up at the top of that. Me and you have talked about his game for, I feel like, a couple of years now, actually. Just love what he was able to do last year as a pure rim protector, a guy who gets on the glass, is continuing to develop his offensive game. Now he's at Cincinnati, where he's going to play with Baba Miller, another guy who has always kind of just been on the fringe of the NBA draft conversation, and really interested to see how he anchors that team with maybe a little bit more talent than he's played around before.
Yeah, without question. Mustapha's one I think could take a massive jump. I think what he does defensively is very, very unique. But, he started shooting threes a little bit last year. He's going to need to add weight and all that type of stuff, but he's got a very, very unique disposition with what he brings to the floor. You mentioned Baba Miller as well. I'm going to go with Flory Badunga out of Kansas. Very intrigued to see what he brings. Again, like we mentioned previously with Big Oswin at Providence, Flory's got a very, very unique athletic disposition to his game. He's a twitchy athlete, but also an explosive. He's a quick leaper. He's got unbelievable instincts as well, and he's got good hands. Can he expand his offensive game? Can he be somebody you dump the ball down to on the block and gets over his right shoulder? Can he consistently knock down free throws? Is there any type of pick and pop stuff to 18 feet that he can show as well? Height's going to be a thing for him, kind of in the 6'8" range. As a 5-man, what does that look like? But there are some very, very, very unique athletic traits that he brings to the table that help him with the length as well and the ferocity motor that he brings at the highest level.
Yeah, really liked what he did in limited minutes last year. I think he's going to be given really just full opportunity to be the guy for this Kansas team this season. Jamie, thanks for doing this. We've gotten through all of the.
Can I go through a couple more names?
Yeah, throw some more out. We got time.
Sebastian Rancic's one that I'm going to be interested to see what he does at Colorado.
Yes,
skilled 6'9" guy, can really shoot the ball. I'm going to be interested to see the step that he takes. He could be the focal point for this Colorado team this year. What does that look like? And kind of how does his game progress forward freshman to sophomore year? There's some real tools there. Very interested to see that. David Punch at TCU is another one. I'm intrigued to kind of see what he does. 6'7" guy who plays with a motor. He's athletic. Can he streamline his offense a little bit more? Can he do a little bit more perimeter based stuff as well? There is shooting touch. There is natural shooting touch there.
Mhm.
Can he get the balance points right, the footwork, and all that type of stuff with his jump shooting? Eager to see David Punch this season for TCU, and then PJ Haggerty
Yeah, PJ Haggerty, of course.
at Kansas State.
Yeah,
Yeah, just a bucket getter.
yeah. He's a guy who last year, I mean,
The, the, the,
we talk about Yaxel Lindeborg and how big of a deal he's going to be in college basketball this year. Well, don't forget PJ Haggerty won Conference Player of the Year over him last season. So, like that's how productive he was in the American last year. That wraps up our
One of the most coveted players out of the portal this year.
Yeah.
Undeniable scoring ability. You kind of saw it a couple years ago with Judah Mintz.
Mhm.
People, he ended up getting drafted with his ability to kind of collapse the defense, get to the paint, and get to the free throw line as well. Does he expand the game out a little bit more than that? He's going to have the usage at Kansas State. We'll see kind of what the offensive output looks like there, but there's obvious intrigue with the production he's had already in college.
Yep, for sure. That'll wrap up our preseason kind of preview series here as we've run through all of the high major conferences. We've broken down the returning players. We also talked about the incoming freshmen on 5-star values. So every Tuesday, Jamie and I are going to talk about whether it's recruiting or NBA draft. We're going to alternate each week throughout the season. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to talk about future recruiting classes. We're going to talk about not just the top of the draft. We're gonna go through and get into some of our favorite players, guys who have different opportunities to come back or stay in the draft. All of that throughout the rest of the season. So, Jamie, thanks for coming on once again, and we'll see you next week.
James, appreciate it, buddy.